The NFL is sick and tired of the Kansas City Chiefs, fed up with them winning almost year in and year out, and that's why the news update about their head coach and GM, reportedly soon to get new deals to keep them around for years to come, should strike fear into the hearts of the masses, because this means the dynasty is far from over. So let's talk about that, Eric Bieniemy back in the college ranks, Charles Omenihu saying he believes he's earned a new deal, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? First up, it looks like Eric Bieniemy's time in the NFL is over, at least for now. After light speculation, he could maybe potentially return to the Chiefs in some capacity as a coach when he wasn't really getting head coach or offensive coordinator interviews. It was announced over the weekend that Bieniemy is returning to the college ranks. Adam Schefter, among others, reported that Eric Bieniemy is finalizing a 2-year deal to join UCLA's staff as its associate head coach / offensive coordinator, a place he did coach as their running backs coach from 2003 and 2005. So EB is back with UCLA, and the reason why is because it looks like the only NFL jobs EB was offered were either for running backs coach or a pass game coordinator. He didn't want to take a step back, and so to the college ranks he went. Now, could the Chiefs have been one of the teams to offer him a job as the running backs coach or pass game coordinator? I mean, maybe, but Andy Reid said after the Super Bowl win that his staff was full, even though he's the biggest EB fan out there. So we will probably never really know. What I do know is, despite some within the kingdom calling for Matt Nagy to be fired, it appears that Nagy is here to stay with EB gone. Most of the other OCs are hired, and he's still under contract, talking about Nagy for 1 more year. More on the Chiefs coaches and contracts later in this video, though, because there was a big announcement this morning that is definitely worth talking about. But first, after it was announced late last week that the Chiefs were signing the punt god, Matt Araiza, many assumed it was because they were going to get a much better deal for him than Tommy Townsend, who is not only a free agent, but last offseason signed with Drew Rosenhaus, signed him as his agent, and Drew is well known for getting his players PAID. And for much more details on the signing of Araiza, as well as his court case, the charges getting dropped, and how he landed on the Chiefs, check out this video here. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Tom Pelissero shared on Friday that the deal Araiza signed with KC is a minimum deal with an injury split, which means no real financial risks for the Chiefs. It looks like his salary is going to be around $800,000, $795 to be exact, or very close to that, and KC can reduce his pay by 45% any weeks that he is on IR. This is about as cheap as you can get for a player of this caliber. In comparison, Tommy Townsend's contract last year was $2.6 million, and he could very well get even more in free agency this offseason. Another thing I'd like to point out about Townsend is that last year was definitely a down year for him as a punter. While he was arguably the best in the NFL in 2021 and 2022, he dropped down to 20th in net yards per punt and 24th out of 32 on percentage of punts landing inside the 20. That's a pretty big drop and may have played a role in the Chiefs potentially moving on from him. Now, several have pointed out how great Harrison Butker's season was last year and that Townsend deserves credit for helping with that as the placeholder, and I definitely agree. This is something Townsend was very good at last year and even helped snag that high snap in the Super Bowl and place it down in time for Butker to hit the Super Bowl record 57-yarder. So something we need to keep our eyes on next season is how quickly can Matt Araiza get rapport down with whoever the long snapper is? James Winchester is a free agent, along with Harrison Butker in the snap, hold, kick motion of field goals and extra points. I would argue that Butker was the team's season-long MVP last year, and his success was indeed helped by Winchester and Townsend. Before I move on, though, it's worth noting that KC could use Araiza's signing as leverage in negotiations with Townsend. Like, hey, we got this guy over here on a cheap deal, and we can use him, so would you be willing to take less money to stay here? I honestly do not think Araiza is simply leverage here, but you can't completely rule it out at the moment. Either way, if Tommy does not sign with KC once the dust settles of free agency, I hope he gets a bag, and I wish him nothing but the best with his next team, aside from when they play the Chiefs. The next thing worth mentioning is that defensive end Charles Omenihu had some words to say late last week when he took to social media to say, "Love seeing other people trying to gauge when I'm going to come back from something or what type of player I am. I would think after this year, people would stop second guessing me, but I guess not. I keep all receipts though, and I'm not exactly sure who Omenihu is referring to. There has been talk of him being listed as a potential surprise cut candidate based on the fact that he just had ACL surgery, and that'll take him approximately somewhere around 9 to 12 months to recover from. I guess he doesn't like people trying to guess when he will return, but I mean, there's a long enough track record of athletes tearing their ACLs, getting them repaired and rehabbing that it makes it pretty easy to at least ballpark when his potential return could be. There have been some to return a bit quicker than that, such as Adrian Peterson, who only took 8 months to come back from an ACL reconstruction after tearing both the ACL and MCL in his left knee. So let's say at best, Omenihu can return 8 months from right now. That still wouldn't be until around October 25th-ish, which would roughly be week 8 of the regular season if you based the dates off of last year's calendar. At worst, Omenihu isn't able to return for most of the season, which is why this has been a topic of discussion considering Omenihu is on the last year of his 2-year deal, and the Chiefs can save roughly $7 million if they move on from him. I don't necessarily want that, but he has to understand why people are at least discussing it considering how late his injury happened in the Chiefs' recent postseason run. If they do end up releasing him, it may need to be before March 16th when $2 million of his salary becomes guaranteed. So look out for that. But Omenihu does not want released. He would instead prefer a new deal, which is certainly a route the Chiefs could go to lower his cap hit this year and keep him around for another couple of years. He had an interview on Good Morning Football earlier today, and when asked if he feels he did enough this past season to get a new deal that he's looking for, he responded saying, quote, "I think I did, to be honest, 7 sacks in 11 games. I think the tape speaks for itself." So while he recovers and rehabs this recently repaired ACL, the Chiefs kind of have 3 big choices. Release him before March 16th to save money and find someone else, keep things as is and bank on a powerful return from him in the second half of the season, or extend him to lower his cap hit this year and keep him around. My question to you guys is, which decision of these 3 do you think the Chiefs should make? Let me know in the comments down below. And then on the subject of the salary cap, the NFL announced a pretty impressive rise in the cap for 2024 last Friday. In fact, there hasn't been a jump in the cap this high percentage-wise since 2006, when the salary cap went from $85.5 million all the way to $102 million. For this year, many initially estimated the cap for 2024 would jump up from $224.8 million, that was the cap in 2023, to around $240-ish million. However, I shared last week in a video that Mike Florio had a source, quote, with a proven record of accuracy in these matters that said it would be closer to $250 million. Well, that source was indeed correct because the cap is set to $255.4, which is just over $30 million of an increase. According to Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports, part of the reason for this jump is that, quote, the NFL signed a new broadcast deal with its partners in 2021 worth more than $110 billion with a B over 11 years. Billions more continue to pour in with new streaming games and gambling revenue. Then Tom Pelissero said the unprecedented $30 million increase per club is a result of the full repayment of all amounts advanced by the clubs and deferred by the players during COVID, as well as an extraordinary increase in media revenue for the 2024 season. And that last sentence there is thanks in part to Taylor Swift, who added at least an estimated $331.5 million in revenue for the NFL and the Kansas City Chiefs. So yeah, even though fans are sick of seeing her on TV for roughly 30 to 45 seconds of a 3+ hour broadcast, they can all thank her for playing a role in increasing their favorite team's salary cap. Okay, maybe it was only a small role, but still, be grateful, you pathetic overgrown toddlers. And with that, many are happy about this update because that obviously gives every team, including the Chiefs, extra money to be able to make moves happen, such as maybe re-sign Chris Jones and tag L'Jarius Sneed. I don't know. It certainly makes the breathing room more bearable and will probably help allow moves like this to be made if that's the direction Kansas City wants to go. It's worth noting, though, that this can also cause a sort of inflation around the league since everyone now has more money to work with than expected. They could throw more money at players than anticipated, and players/their representatives may also try to demand more money. Speaking of money, we got to get to some of the best news I've heard in a while that will definitely bother the rest of the league, and that is they are reportedly about to handsomely pay one of their coaches. They recently made some great financial decisions, in my opinion, with their coaching staff so far, because these decisions are keeping the band together, allowing continuity at least with the coordinators and one other key position coach so far, and defensive line coach Joe Cullen. KC quietly reached an extension with him per Adam Schefter shortly after the Super Bowl win. He said this on the Pat McAfee show. And this is a man who's helped the defensive line out tremendously, per the words of Chris Jones himself. The Chiefs then extended defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo the morning of the Super Bowl parade. And 2 days later, they extended special teams coordinator and assistant head coach, I believe is his title, Dave Tobe. And I mentioned earlier that offensive coordinator Matt Nagy is still under contract, so he appears to be back, as well as offensive line coach Andy Heck, defensive backs coach Dave Merritt, and others. However, this is not the most important or exciting part of this update. Head coach Andy Reid put to rest retirement rumors after the Super Bowl win, yes, but many still wondered, well, how many years does this man, the oldest head coach since Belichick and Pete Carroll are no longer head coaches, have left in the league? Well, his current deal has him under contract through the 2025 season, as he's on the 6th of a 7-year deal, so we knew he could potentially at least be coaching that long if Big Red's desire was to keep coaching, and Clark Hunt wanted to keep him around, which is a big old duh. They're in the midst of a dynasty, therefore, why not keep it going? Andy's been wanting Super Bowl wins his entire coaching career and is just finally starting to stack them up. However, there's at least one issue with his current contract, and that is Andy Reid is underpaid. According to Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports, a source told him Andy Reid is definitely not retiring, but he's not paid what he should be getting paid. The source also went on to say, that's the problem with the whole organization. Pay has not been what it should be all the way from top to bottom. Well, I don't know about all that, considering Patrick Mahomes is the highest paid player in the NFL. But hey, Andy Reid is definitely one that deserves more. He's currently making around $12 million a year, which had him approximately 10th in the NFL in head coach salaries, at least prior to the Super Bowl, when some of them got moved on from and others got hired. But the highest at this point in time, at least, is Sean Payton of the Denver Broncos. He's right around the 18 million mark. Something crazy is right now, Andy Reid is the 3rd highest paid coach out of the 4 coaches in the AFC West, which is insane considering he outcoaches all of them. That's why today's update is a great one. Tom Pelissero reported this morning the Chiefs are to open talks on a contract extension with Andy Reid in the coming weeks about a new contract that NFL sources believe should make Andy the highest paid coach in football. Nate Taylor of The Athletic actually said that negotiations are expected to begin this week on a new contract when Chiefs GM Brett Veach and Bob Lamonte, that's Andy Reid's agent, will meet in Indianapolis during the NFL Combine. So it appears that Andy will not only be getting the pay raise he deserves, but will lock in for even more years with the team. This is in line with Clark Hunt saying in an interview recently that he expects Andy Reid to be the head coach of the Chiefs for years to come. So take that, Florio. And it looks like he will do so, making a lot more money, which is very much well-deserved. Something else of note in this article from Tom Pelissero is that GM Brett Veach is also in line for a new deal. Veach signed a 5-year contract extension in 2020 at the same time as Andy Reid. And though he still has a couple years left, Nate Taylor said that it is indeed possible to see both Brett Veach and Andy Reid have new contracts going at least through the 2028 season before the start of training camp. And that, my friends, is why every other team in the NFL's worst nightmare is coming true. Joe Cullen's back. Nagy's still there. Dave Merritt's still there. Andy Heck's still there. Tobe got extended. Spags got extended. Andy Reid will soon reportedly be the highest paid coach in the NFL for years to come. Brett Veach is then likely next to get extended, and all of this means the reign of the kingdom, the dynasty, is far from over. Teams are going to have to deal with the same elite coaching staff and one of the best GMs in the game for years to come. While many successful teams continue to lose key coaches, the Chiefs continue to keep them along for the ride. And with Patrick Mahomes just now hitting his prime, I don't see things truly going south for many years. With all that being said, though, make sure to let me know your thoughts on this glorious news in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?